tough time. It has been a hard few days lately. Melissa did not deserve any of this, and she was taken far too soon.
Friends and family of a nurse in Oregon are grieving after she goes missing, and days later, her neighbor is charged with her murder and kidnapping. I have details about the search for Melissa Jubane as the man charged with killing her appears in court. Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Melissa Jubane was just 32 years old. She was a nurse, and just last month, she married the love of her life in Hawaii. A local TV station reported that Jubane was planning to look for a job in Washington State, where her new husband lived, so she could move there to be with him. Melissa Jubane had everything going for her. So on September 4th, when she got up to get ready for her nursing shift at Providence St. Vincent Medical Center in Portland, and she never arrived for work, it was concerning to say the least. Beaverton Police were asked to perform a welfare check, but did not find Melissa Jubane at her apartment, and police said her phone appeared to be off. They called her disappearance alarming. This was definitely not like Melissa. Something was certainly wrong. I spoke with digital creator Skyler Talbott, who was there as people searched for Melissa.
Yeah, I mean, heartbreaking. I think when you think about the fact that she worked at Nike, and Nike's really just a staple, obviously, in Oregon in general, being headquartered there and in Portland. Just for me, like when I heard that she was a nurse, she'd previously worked at Nike, you start thinking about your friends and family members, that are working there or active in the community and envisioning it could be them, right? And so I think people came out in full force, hundreds of people, to search for her, and that was really the mission, is just bringing her home. And it was great to see the community come together so quickly.
Police launched an investigation immediately as people searched for Melissa up until last Friday.
So I was actually out searching, I think it was Friday. And it was Friday last week, and we kind of searched the wooded area over by the Nike campus. There's a ton of wooded areas behind the apartments. And so that's kind of where we focused our search. I will say the apartment building, just being outside of it, it's not a huge apartment building. And so I think when you think about, it being a neighbor potentially, it's just a small area, and so there's 5 floors to it. From what I understand, she lived on the top floor. That hasn't been confirmed, but really, I mean, she just didn't make it to her car. And so I think as a community, people came together at that Costco right there behind her apartments and, just wanted to flood the area and drive awareness. And one of the things that I found interesting is when I was down there on Friday filming my update video in front of the complex there just was neighbors there were neighbors that were coming outside, and some of them weren't even aware that this had happened, and that had happened on Wednesday. And so many of them asking me questions like, "Hey, I heard you said police, what's going on?" I didn't, hadn't grasped it. Others were coming out and curious who was there and looking for information and kind of wondering what we were up to. But from what I understand, they arrested him that Friday night. So you kind of had the search going on around the apartments, and then they made the arrest in the apartments that Friday.
Early Saturday morning, Beaverton Police announced that they had found Melissa Jubane's remains, and her neighbor, Bryce Schubert, was taken into custody and charged with second-degree murder. Additional charges of kidnapping and abuse of a corpse were added later. Schubert was also a nurse, but did not work at the same hospital as Jubane, and what connection he had to her, if any, besides being her neighbor, remains unclear. Providence St. Vincent Medical Center, where Jubane worked, issued a statement about Melissa. "We are devastated to learn about Melissa Jubane's passing. She was a nurse and colleague at Providence St. Vincent. We are all shocked by this, and her co-workers are grieving for her. We are standing in solidarity with Melissa's family and close associates. We value all of the community's expressions of concern. We shall miss Melissa, who was a creature of Providence." There are still so many questions about Melissa Jubane's disappearance and murder, and police are not revealing any details about the crime. The arraignment for Bryce Schubert was incredibly brief, one of the shortest I've ever seen. He was ordered held without bail. The probable cause affidavit remains sealed by the judge, so we're getting no details from that document. Retired NYPD Detective David Sarni will explain why he believes that document remains sealed here in a bit. A friend of Melissa Jubane's posted about the loss she is feeling and memories of her on TikTok. Take a look.
Melissa did not deserve any of this, and she was taken far too soon. Through everything that is happening, I think one of the things that helps me cope through all this is by sharing the sweet memories that I have of her. There's so many. She has the sweetest soul in the world, and I wanted to be able to create a space for those that had any interactions with her, those that knew her, had, really close relationships with her, just anybody that has any sweet memories of her. If you don't mind sharing that with us so that we can share that with each other and share that with the rest of her family to help us get through this time, I think that would really be great and helpful. So please tag them, share your stories. I will go first. This picture right here was, I don't even know how old we were. We were in my other cousin's room, Josephine, and we saw a camera and we decided to sit in her room and create a Sears photo shoot and take a bunch of pictures, and it was just so much fun.
The disappearance of Melissa Jubane and her murder, and then the arrest of her neighbor for the crime, really makes me think about how we all have to know who's around us, who's living right next door to us. Truthfinder.com is a website that can help you research people that you meet each day. I use Truthfinder all of the time for work and at home, especially because I have a child. Truthfinder is great because it will show you past addresses, relatives, and criminal records of the people that you search. And it will also show you the sex offenders who live in your neighborhood. Right now, Crime Fix listeners and viewers can get 50% off of confidential background reports. Just log on to truthfinder.com/LCCrimeFix to get 50% off and start accessing information about almost anyone. On Monday night, after Schubert's arraignment, a nurses association in Oregon held a vigil to remember Melissa Jubane.
I didn't have a chance to go to the vigil, but I did have family and friends that went, and they sent some videos, and it was put on by the Oregon Nurses Association. I thought they did an incredible job of showing up for Melissa and putting on that vigil. I mean, it was beautiful. You could see the footage, obviously. Just songs that were being shared. People were bringing flowers, and it was really something that was held for the medical community. We saw over the weekend, there was a vigil that took place at University of Portland. So that was the other thing is, she was a University of Portland pilot over there in North Portland, which, rings close to home for me. And so, it was great to see the school come together and really try to, honor her over the weekend. And they held a mass and, students, kids. It was very active. And, there's a lot of people hurting when you think about the fact that she was tied into Nike, the hospitals, University of Portland. There's a lot of people that were connected to her, and it's heartbreaking.
David Sarni is an adjunct professor at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice in New York. He's also a retired NYPD detective. So, David, thank you so much for coming on. Your first thoughts on this case. Melissa Jubane goes missing, and of course, this is not like her, and police launch a massive search.
Yeah, one of the things about missing persons is that you never know how they're going to turn out in the beginning. The benefit of this was the quick action by her friends when they noticed she didn't come to work. They asked the police to do a wellness check, a welfare check, and then when the police arrive, they see that nothing is disturbed, but she's not there. And what happens is when you talk about investigations, it doesn't seem unusual until you compound a lot of things going on in play, meaning that she never misses work, she's never late for work, she makes phone calls, they're always in contact with each other. I know what they did then is once they noticed also the car didn't leave the facility, leave the apartment complex, that was another issue. So now you're starting to see the everything start rolling into play. They know, I'm going to presume they spoke to the husband who was in Washington State, find out what he did or what he heard, when's the last time he spoke to her. And apparently the time frame of the notification for the police was narrowed down to when she left her apartment, which is around 6:20 in the morning. So now you have a much more narrower avenue to which to investigate what happened, where'd she go.
So this search goes on. Well, her friends organize searches. Obviously, the community comes out because this is of grave concern. This is not somebody who would usually disappear on her own. So people start looking for her, and they go around the apartment complex. They launch their own searches. How important do you think things like maybe video surveillance were? She obviously may have tried to leave for work. We just don't know at this point if she even got out of the building. But her neighbor is now charged with murdering her. So we don't know how well she knew this person who is accused now. I mean, there's a lot of questions still to be answered in this case, at least publicly.
Yes, you're really having a lot of information that's being held by the Beaverton Police Department. And because I believe that, again, anytime you're dealing with these type of murders, it's still an active investigation, even though you have an arrest. And right now you have the person arrested, the defendant in this case, alleged to have murdered her, a next door neighbor. So they're going to try to fill in the blanks and put the pieces of the puzzle together. And the video surveillance, if there's video surveillance at that residence, it's paramount to obtain and view as soon as possible. And one benefit of that is you can actually utilize that, especially in a smaller time frame they have, since she apparently left her apartment around 6:20 in the morning. You can really narrow down the video surveillance, the video footage from that point, and point outwards. So I don't know if they have video at where the garage is, where her car is parked. We don't know where the video is on the floor of the building, but you have something that they went on. And the benefit of actually with residents and family and friends doing a search, as long as it's coordinated by the police in a sense, because we don't want something to get trampled on. So a lot of times these family members and people want to help volunteers. We want to coordinate them with the police, so this way they don't disturb a possible crime scene. So, and what they did was they did on their own, but hopefully with the guidance of the police. And the police are going to do their investigation separate and in conjunction with that search.
The judge in this case has kept the probable cause affidavit sealed. Bryce Schubert is being held without bail. He's made his initial appearance in court. It was probably the shortest court appearance I've ever seen in my life. And so what's the point in holding that document back at this point? The suspect, the defendant, is in custody. So why keep any information, the probable cause information, from coming out publicly right now? Why would a judge do that in your view as a former detective?
There's possibilities that maybe this individual is not this defendant is not the only one who's participating in this. We don't know. So you want to keep everything hidden close to the chest. You don't really know at this point what's going on. They had enough to arrest him. If you have enough to arrest a probable cause, but this is investigation that's ongoing. And from the reports I have, they're still looking for more tips from anyone else who's heard anything. So is there a chance that the defendant in this case is the only defendant in this case, and there might be another participant? We don't know. And the probable cause affidavit is maybe being held for that reason. And there's another information that they're waiting to verify at this point.
They seem to really make this arrest quite quickly. I mean, with everything we know, I mean, this didn't drag on for even a week. I mean, they made quick work of this. So what does that tell you, given the limited information that we have? I mean, they said they recovered her remains, but we don't even know at this point where they recovered Melissa's remains.
Right. So I'm going to presume the way they started the investigation, whatever video surveillance that they had, if they were using tracking on the cell phones, what kind of phone. I know her phone was off. We know her banking records nothing about her banking records or credit card usage was there. But they probably moved very quickly because the information they had was very recent. And they were hoping to, hopefully not have this end result and try and recover, find her missing and find her, safe, healthy, and happy. And unfortunately, they didn't.
Well, it is certainly a terribly sad case. Do you expect, since they're looking for more tips, you mentioned earlier the possibility that others might be involved. he's facing a second-degree murder charge, which I find very curious. You know, we have no idea what the circumstances are surrounding this. Her father, I had saw on social media, referred to this guy as a stalker. That's a new element, but we don't have any confirmation that any type of stalking was going on. Do you anticipate possibly more coming from this, since that affidavit is indeed still sealed?
Definitely would think there's more. I'm not, this is, again, the way make a quick arrest based on this and have have the defendant identified. And I'm going to presume they worked in conjunction with the district attorney's office, the prosecutor in this case, to get that probable cause to make the arrest. But there's going to be more information. So I think they have enough to make an arrest. But in the criminal justice system, you're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And they're going to build that evidence. So when if they do go to trial, the evidence that shows that the person that they arrested is the one that did it. And that probable cause warrant, I mean, you want that information. The media wants it. But the reality is, if I'm still doing the investigation, I want to keep it a little quieter, a little closer to the chest, because I don't need anyone interfering. And as I said, if there's possible accomplices involved that may flee. This is a situation where it's still fluid. You have an arrest. Is this the only person? Right now, we have one arrest. Will there be more? We won't know until this investigation is completed by the police department.
Well, we will certainly keep an eye on it. Thank you so much, David Sarney, for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Take care, and thank you for having me.
Beaverton Police are still asking for tips about Melissa Jubane's death and disappearance. So those can be called in to the Beaverton Police Department. And a GoFundMe page has already raised nearly $80,000 for her funeral expenses. That's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.